chosen 3 different multiple choice questions in particle physics and waves as well actually. So let's have a look at them. I've written a few notes, so if you want to pause the video and have a go yourself, you can. But just to start with, it asks for the number of hadrons, baryons and mesons in this particle here. Just to quickly remind you, examples, so particles are split into hadrons and leptons, hadrons are split into baryons and mesons. Examples of baryons you need to know are the proton and neutron. Just going to change the pen color. So the proton and the neutron. Examples of mesons you need to know are the pi mesons and the k mesons. Examples of leptons you need to know are electrons, neutrinos and also muons. So in this particular case, for this atom, there's only protons, neutrons and electrons. So straight off the bat, we know there's no mesons involved. So it's definitely either C or D. Now, how many baryons are there? Well, how many protons and neutrons are in this atom? The mass number tells you the number of protons and neutrons. So there's 7. So it can still be either C or D. How many hadrons are there? Well, hadrons are baryons and mesons. And because there's no mesons and there's only baryons, there's still 7 protons and neutrons. So the correct option here is C. We don't include leptons because it's not in any of these columns. Moving on to specific charge, it's charge per unit mass. If we think of an atom of calcium, it'd have 20 protons, 20 neutrons and 20 electrons, but it tells you that an ion is formed by removing 2 electrons, meaning it'll have less than 20 electrons, it'll have 18 electrons. So let's write that out. I'll tell you why it's important to write this out. And there's 18 electrons. What that means is that in an atom normally, the number of protons are balanced by the number of electrons, so there's no charge. But because there's 2 less electrons and there's 2 more protons, that means that there's more of a positive charge, 2 times the positive charge. So the charge of the ion is 2 times the charge of each proton, because that's the charge of the ion itself now. That's the difference in charge between protons and electrons. We then divide that by the mass of the ion, which is the mass of all the protons, plus the mass of all the neutrons and mass of electrons. This value is given in your equation sheet, and so are the masses of protons, neutrons and electrons. Because the masses are the same for protons and neutrons, I'm just going to combine them and say the total number of protons and neutrons, 40, multiply the mass of both of them, which is given in the exam like I mentioned, plus the mass of all the electrons, so the number of electrons, multiplied by the mass of each electron. And that will actually give you option C. That's the correct answer in this case. Great, moving on. This is now waves and double slit interference. I wanted to go through this question. So in this equation, W stands for fringe spacing. D stands for the distance between the slits in the screen. S stands for slit spacing, which is the distance between 2 slits in general. And it's asking which of these options gives the same fringe spacing, so which keeps it so that the fringe spacing doesn't double or halve, etc. It's actually option C, because if we replace the wavelength with 2 times the wavelength, and then we replace the distance with is it C? Let's have a look. Oh, it's actually not C. It'll actually be B, and let's go through why. So if we replace the wavelength with 2 times the wavelength, and we multiply the distance by 2 times the distance, but then we divide by the distance between the slits being multiplied by a multiple of 4, 2 times 2 is 4, divided by 4 is 1, so you're still left with lambda d over s, which is W. So that maintains the same fringe spacing, so it's option B. Hopefully that made sense. Please like the video if you enjoyed that or if it helped. Comment, subscribe, turn your post notifications on. I'll post a new video every day. And if you have any tutoring inquiries, you can also send me an email. It's linked in the description. Thanks for watching.